The sts-124 mission represents the spirit of global teamwork. Commanded by Mark Kelly and joined by JAXA astronaut Aki Hoshide, the crew of Discovery will build on the success of sts-123 by adding a large pressurized module and a versatile robot arm. sts-124 is the second in this series of flights. Discovery is in place on Launch Pad 39A, and the countdown clock is already ticking toward liftoff.
Close and lock your visors and initiate O2 flow. It's time to fly.
Live from Kennedy Space Center, this is continuing coverage of the countdown to launch of the sts-124 mission.
This is Shuttle Launch Control at T-minus 3 hours in holding. We are just 5 hours shy of the launch of Space Shuttle Discovery on its sts-124 mission to the International Space Station. Launch controllers are not working any problems right now that would prevent us from lifting off at 5:02 p.m. Eastern. Thank you for joining us on this very sunny Saturday here at NASA's Kennedy Space Center along Florida's central east coast. I'm NASA launch commentator Aller Butel, and you're watching live video right now of Shuttle Discovery on its Seaside Launch Pad 39A. During the next 5 hours, we'll take a look at the sts-124 mission, its 7-person crew and cargo, as well as follow along as launch controllers get ready to send Discovery into orbit. NASA started this week with a successful landing and a start to a 3-month mission for the Mars Phoenix lander. And now we're looking to bookend that successful week with a successful launch and a start to a 2-week mission to the International Space Station, where Discovery's 7 astronauts will add the newest and largest laboratory to the orbiting outpost. And it's called the Japanese Pressurized Module. And this week really exemplifies NASA's 1-2 punch strategy for space exploration, a combination of robotic and remote scientific study and analysis and then direct human forays into space. And before we recap this morning's launch preparations, there's one more thing I'd like to point out. If you're saying to yourself that Space Shuttle Discovery looks a little better than you remember it, you're probably not that far off. And for the very first time, NASA television is broadcasting the launch of a space shuttle in high-definition television. So the space age and digital age do meet here for NASA on the sts-124 mission. Let's take a quick look at what happened this morning so far. At about 7:38 a.m. Eastern, we began operation to load the external fuel tank with more than 500,000 gallons of liquid propellants that will be used by the shuttle's 3 main engines to lift Discovery into orbit. We finished filling the tank and went into what's known as stable replenish, which means we basically essentially top off the tank, the propellants boil off, at 10:36 a.m. Something that has been of note for people in the past several missions, the engine cutoff sensors. We, at 8:28 this morning, launch controllers tested Discovery's engine cutoff sensors, also known as the eco sensors, in the external fuel tank. The sensor system is one of several that protect the shuttle's main engines by triggering their shutdown in the event that either the liquid hydrogen or liquid oxygen levels in the external tank run unexpectedly low. The eco sensors operate much like a low gas warning on your car, but what they do when the levels drop below a certain level, that sensor will then send a message to the shuttle's computer that it's dry and will trigger the shutdown if needed. As part of our normal testing, we basically make these sensors go from a condition where they know that they're covered. They're obviously wet from the liquid propellants. We trick them into saying that you're actually dry, and that way we know that the sensors are actually working. So far we've had no eco-sensor issues, and that being the case, this is probably the last time that we'll have to discuss that system during Discovery's countdown today. Now that we're getting up to speed on countdown activities, let's take a quick look at Discovery's sts-124 mission. It probably best summarized by Discovery's commander, Mark Kelly, saying that the one big giant goal of this flight is to deliver and install the Japanese pressurized module. This is the second of 3 flights for the shuttle program that will launch components to complete the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, it's also known as JAXA, to complete its Kibo laboratory. The first piece of the Kibo laboratory was launched in the last shuttle mission in March, and the final major components will be flying up next year on the sts-127 mission. On Discovery's flight on sts-124, we'll be taking up the Japanese pressurized module. You'll also hear it referred to as the JPM, and the main part of its remote manipulator system also goes by the acronym RMS. And the RMS consists of 2 robotic arms that will support operations on the outside of the Kibo laboratory. Right now, in this particular flight, we'll be taking up the large main arm, and a smaller 6-foot arm will be sent up on a flight next year. Discovery is scheduled to do a 14-day mission to the International Space Station, and we have the ability to stay docked for at least going into launch an extra day if needed. And that still gives us 2 weather wave-off days if we're not able to come down on June 14th, Saturday morning, to end the flight. Not only will we be taking up, obviously, supplies and the pressurized module and its remote manipulator system, but we'll also be taking up a new crew member for the International Space Station. NASA astronaut Greg Chamatoff will be replacing our current Expedition 17 flight engineer, NASA astronaut Garrett Reisman. He's been in there since the March shuttle launch. And the sts-124 mission does include 3 spacewalks, some repair and some replacement of some things on the outside of the International Space Station. So it's going to be a very busy 14 days. And of course, not only can you watch live coverage of the entire mission on NASA television, but you can also go to nasa.gov/shuttle for the latest information anytime. Discovery's astronauts started their day this morning about 6:30, and they received their weather briefing in about half an hour from now from the Ascent team in the Mission Control Center at Johnson Space Center in Houston. Operations and checkup building. In fact, we're so close we're here. There's the sts-124 crew suiting up. That's Commander Mark Kelly. And his pilot, Ken Ham. That's our lead spacewalker for this mission, Mike Fossum. He's had one flight before, with Mark Kelly on the sts-121 mission last. There's Greg Chamatoff talking to Mark Kelly's brother. You're not seeing double. He does have a twin, and Mark's flying. And Scott flew last year on the STS-118 mission. Greg will be getting a lot of thumbs up because he'll be spending the next 6 months or so on the International Space Station. He's going to be replacing Garrett Reisman. And we just got a little bit of a shot there of Aki Hoshide. That's a much better shot of him. This is Hoshide's first flight into space. He was born in Tokyo, Japan, but did spend 4 years here in the United States. So people keep hearing comments about how good English he is. It's Dr. Karen Nyberg. She'll be making her first flight on this mission. And finally, we have Ron Guerin, also making his first flight. He's a colonel in the U.S. Air Force, and he's one of our mission specialists. And coming back and taking a look at Discovery on the launch pad, that will be awaiting them in their arrival in the next 45 minutes or so. The crew should be departing in about 20 minutes or so into the Astrovan, and then driving to the launch pad. It takes about half an hour.